Good day. It's been a very, very good week of football. Have the Champions League back. We had the Champions League back and a good and interesting weekend of football, including the London Derby. Welcome to the podcast. I have with me here today. I have Ray. Ray's here with me. Of course, he's a Guna, and then of course I am your relegation derby is this weekend. Burnley versus Man United. Ooh, 6 pointer. So, welcome to the podcast. It is Footsie Fantasy. This is a weekly podcast, so welcome back, viewers. Um, Thank you for coming back. If you're watching us for the first time, please don't forget to hit subscribe. We're on YouTube, Twitter, and of course in Facebook. We are at Footy Fantasy on Facebook and YouTube, and we are Footy 80 Fantasy on Twitter. So let's dive in. Let me stop boring you with all of that. Let's dive in. Because it seems some people are getting humbled or
Uh,
looking more humble.
uh,
This used to be a 3 pointer for Arsenal. So, Ray, what's going on?
oh yeah. So I mean, this North London Derby was an interesting one because over the years, over the last couple of years, when Tottenham was relatively doing much better than Arsenal was doing, but even then, we could always almost count on us beating them at home, even when they were better than us, right? So I remember a couple of years when they were up there in the league at home, you can still beat Tottenham because there's always something about the derby that gives us that edge to we have that spark to us. This year was an interesting one because both teams are unbeaten. Well, technically still are unbeaten, and they were unbeaten going into the derby. And Arsenal fans. It was an interesting one for me because I had this weird feeling. Like I wasn't. If anyone who knows me well enough, I'm very guarded about my emotions when it comes to some of these games and derbies. And something was just funny in me that was like, we were playing okay. They're also unbeaten. But I just had a feeling that we were not going to get the result we wanted in the derby this today. Not necessarily, and it's ironically kind of played out the way that it was meant to play, in that sense. So I see a lot of Arsenal fans who are all excited, like, oh yeah, we're going to smash Tottenham, and then I also saw some Tottenham fans who also, oh, we're going to smash Arsenal because they weren't beaten. But there was just something that both teams just kind of nullified each other, essentially, is the sort of long story short. We can get into the details of the game, but generally, I just think Arsenal, it didn't have the same derby intensity that it's had over the years for me. And then also, I can even see it on the field. It was a very interesting one for me. And, Ange, the manager for Tottenham, Postecoglou, was actually very smart. Towards the end of the game, again, we can get into the details, but he took off two of his most dangerous players, I think. And I think because in his mind, he was here to get the 2 points, get the point at Arsenal, and that's a good result. So he was a bit more pragmatic. Whereas other derbies, you would have seen him leave his two main guys up front, and then there would have been a winner between Arsenal or Tottenham in today's game. So anyway, that's my overview. I think we didn't approach it mentally for some reason well enough. And obviously there's a lot of, mitigating circumstances, which I don't want to be making excuses, but I just didn't get that energy even from the kickoff from Arsenal that they were up for this sort of fight. And you can tell it from, when we scored, then they scored. Then when we scored again, they scored. So they seemed to be better at managing the game than we were, which was very interesting observation. I don't know. Those are my sort of high level thoughts on that.
I'd say they were not just better at managing the game. I say they were better in the game. They
Yeah,
played a
I
better
would say
game.
so.
Yeah, I'd say Spurs had Arsenal had chances. I'm not
Hmm.
sure what the stats are about chances. I didn't look it up. I'll look it up as I speak. But I think
Yeah.
Spurs had the better chances. When you talk about real misses, Arsenal
Mm.
had maybe one.
I
The
think I think early in the game, we had better chances, though,
yeah,
even though we weren't playing very well and we didn't
yeah,
finish the chances. I think
yeah. You
that's
didn't
what it was.
finish, but
So, yeah.
Spurs missed what could have what you could. that's the keeper Raya made a wonderful save.
That save was phenomenal.
That's it.
Oof.
And then just before the goal, that chance was also a good chance. The one he
Yep.
booked at the near post,
Yep.
but that doesn't matter because Spurs scored that same
Yep.
move. Then
Yep.
the Sun had a couple of look-ins, like they looked kind of like they could have scored,
Hmm.
and they were
Exactly.
getting in interesting positions when they
Hmm.
were countering. It looked like Spurs were really up for it.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
that's what I felt. I'm not saying that I'm right, but it looked like it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of had better chances
Hmm.
at some part of the game in the beginning, but as the game won, I started having that feeling that Spurs were more dangerous. Arsenal were nullified entirely. Spurs looked very dangerous on they kind of baited Arsenal, countered, and then at times they pushed Arsenal back
Hmm.
before the changes. Like in the last 15, 20 minutes, there was a time in that game when Spurs pushed Arsenal and were the ones passing, and Arsenal were countering at home.
Yeah.
Before the changes, then they sat back. And then they also did that a few times because there were times when Romero stepped up. And, what's his name? Come on, how can I forget his name? The striker, Nketiah.
Okay.
Nketiah
Yeah. Yeah.
was literally on the halfway line. So
Yeah.
I think for an away game, for his first London derby, puts Ange. I'll
It's
call him
called
Ange.
Angie. It's called Angie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Andy did very well. You know, that was not really pragmatic in the sense that he didn't play for a draw. Really, he played with the cards he had. Because if he didn't pull out those two guys, I think they were running out of steam. Arsenal might have scored. Weirdly,
Yeah.
because Arsenal were also
Good point.
dangerous.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So yeah, sorry to cut you. Say when I meant pragmatic, I meant towards the end of the game. Oh, I do
Yeah,
agree with you because, like I said, if you had left them on, they were creating chances where there would have been a winner in the game. It could have either
yeah.
been Arsenal or it could have been Tottenham
It
if
could have been- yeah, it
Song
was.
or Madison stayed on. So
That's
I
right.
think he was like, all right, we've done our job here, and then let's just hold it. Let's not get too emotional. And again, I'm not here to like to sort of um, take away from them, but also I think I want to focus more on Arsenal. I think that performance. There was a couple of things that bothered me about that performance, and I think to begin with, again, not taking away from Spurs, they did.
Nah.
They came to do their job, and then they
Mhm.
took the game to us. No fear. Props to them. Kudos to them there. But Arsenal, I think there's a couple of mistakes that Arteta made. One was the starting lineup. I was like, it was kind of mitigating circumstances because Martinelli's injured, Trossard's injured. Who do you bring out left? Okay, Eddie had been doing okay, so okay, starting with those two, fair enough. I don't necessarily think I personally have issues with that. Some people might hindsight say, okay, well, they should have done something different. I think starting generally was okay. But I think it was just managing the game. And again, even with that starting lineup, that's when we had those chances. There's the one that Eddie had in the first half. There's the one that Jesus, because we were pressing and forcing them into mistakes at the back. The fullback was on a yellow card, which I don't know why Saka didn't continue to push him. Both their center midfielders were on yellow cards in the first half. So again, as you know in football, you have three of the main guys who were stopping you. I don't know why we didn't continue pushing for them in that, and then we didn't finish those chances, right? And then the second half came, and as soon as Rice got injured, every Arsenal fan was just like, okay, well, because Declan Rice being just he's so solid there. He's there to cover up. He's there covering up, in case of mistakes from the back or maybe Saka loses the ball, so Saka could have a little bit of freedom. So as soon as Declan Rice went off, I knew it was going to turn into a back and forth transition game with Spurs, which you never want to do against Spurs. That's the last thing you want to do against Spurs because ironically, Spurs are actually one of the better teams at doing that. And lo and behold, that's what it turned into. But we got a chance to score the first goal with the free kick, so the penalty in the first half. So I'm thinking, okay, that's 2-1, settle down. It's going to be a back and forth, but let's just breathe. And literally 45 seconds later, they're scoring down the back end, and that just and Jorginho, which that really annoyed me because I think that was an individual mistake by Jorginho. Even given all been said with Tottenham and Arsenal, he dwelled on the ball way too long, and then obviously you turn over the ball, and there wasn't even pressure initially, but he held on the ball so long, then the pressure, and then with Madison and Son, you put yourself in 2-2, and then at that point we're trying to do this kind of transition, and then so we had to also be careful about how we navigated that. And then his subs that Teta made as well were very, very shocking. Somebody said, I guess Jesus wasn't quite
Yeah.
fit enough to play the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
90, because
Hmm.
that's the only explanation I have for having Eddie stay on. Eddie had probably one of the worst games he's had in his Arsenal career. And I'm a kind of person, if you know me about Arsenal, like I know Eddie's not the guy, but I'm also a kind of guy that if you work hard, I'll give you a chance. When you do something based on, you get the opportunity. So I know Eddie's not the guy to take us to the next level, but he's been playing relatively okay. Today, absolutely one of the worst games I've seen him play. So that's the only explanation for Jesus not finishing that game, because I would have done put Jesus in the middle. He's way more dangerous than Eddie, and then bring on whoever on the right wing as well. So yeah. All that being said, I think it was just an
Okay.
interestingly flat, and then there was no
Okay.
energy from
Okay. So
Arsenal as well. Yeah,
yeah, because that's what I thought. I was about to say that these guys had yellow cards and all of that, but they were not. They didn't get in. They never looked like they were under any pressure to get another
yeah,
yellow card.
at all.
They
None
actually
of
played
them.
better when they had the yellow cards. Bissouma dominated the midfield, so I think
Yep,
it was one of. That's why when we were not thinking about the game, I now feel better to say, yeah, I'm actually right. Spurs had a better game because there
yeah,
were times
100%.
when Sa and Bissouma and Poro or Kulusevski, or
Yeah,
because they had triangles all over the place, but both of them were always a constant. Sa Bissouma with Udogie. Udogie was another one that had a good game, and
yep,
four of the five guys I mentioned were in yellows.
hmm,
And this is before we even mention um, Madison and Son, who had
yep,
great games. But
hmm,
these other guys here, you could okay, yeah, they got yellow cards, but two of those yellow cards were just technical yellow cards, I believe. They weren't really yellow cards in the sense of one was Bissouma running to the ref. It's a yellow card by the
yeah.
law. Yeah,
Yeah,
that kind of
but
stuff.
yellow's a yellow, because if he
Yellow's
now
yellow.
does another yellow, that's a
Yeah,
red.
that's right.
So just
But
like Odegaard got a yellow in the first half for this exact same thing.
so it's the exact
And
same thing,
yeah,
yeah.
the difference
But
is they nullified his game, but their
yeah,
game wasn't nullified, because
yeah.
Odegaard after that he
They
wasn't the
they
same Odegaard.
nullified
Yeah,
Odegaard. Havertz wasn't really in that game because that's another one that didn't have a good game.
man. Yeah,
Before Rice was a bit better, but he got injured.
yeah,
So yeah, Saka scored 2 goals, but this wasn't a great game for Saka either.
yeah. The goal.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean
yeah.
he started off well. Again, I think a lot of the Arsenal players, the first 30 minutes, you would say Arsenal actually played the better game. The first 30 minutes, and
Okay.
then after that 30 minutes, it's almost like after we scored our first goal, and then it just kind of we let Spurs take over the game, and then it kind of turned into that sort of back and forth game, which suits them perfectly. That's kind of what happened in the game. So yeah, Saka again, he did okay, but I just there was just something missing. Again, even if we won 3-2, obviously I would be happy with the points, but the performance, there was something lacking. One, for derby, but also there just wasn't that extra, the desire. And Spurs had that desire even when they went a goal down both times. They were like, all right, we'll just keep doing what we're doing, and then they got the goals. Whereas for us, we got the goals, and then we didn't count on it. We just kind of took it back. We almost thought, okay, we scored the one goal, that's it. In that, and then they scored, and then we had to try to keep up. So I
Okay.
think
So
we didn't have any danger really. Even later on when we were playing counter attack against them, because now we had to, because we basically couldn't control. Jorginho couldn't control those two. I mean, they were just running circles around him. But we didn't have any dangerous outlets. So even I was looking, I'm like, even if when we had possession, I'm like, I don't know who's going to score in this team today, because Jesus was off, Eddie was on, Havertz is just floundering. So so that itself was also sort of slightly worrying. So, but
okay. So
we
so
take the 2 points, and at one point, and we move to the next one, I guess.
so let's move on to Angie. Is Angie the real
Yeah.
deal? What do you think of Angie?
Well,
Is it a flash in
I
the pan?
I don't think it's a flash in the pan. I think he's actually I think he's a solid manager. He kind of, I'm not saying this, not stylistically, not the same, but it reminds me of when Potts kind of started at Tottenham, where it was like, okay, you have young players and you have to get the right fit players and build a sort of style you want to play and be hard to beat, and then go from there. Don't try to do something else. Don't worry about what Arsenal is doing, because I feel like that's always been our Tottenham's sort of Achilles heel over the longest year. They're always trying to, oh, if Arsenal's going for a player, let's go for that player. It's always like for the last decade and a half. Whereas this time around, there's a similarity to the beginning of Poch's reign, where he's playing some good football, using his midfield as well. Busuma's back, as you know. Busuma, when
It was a
Spurs
Brighton.
first, exactly, when he first signed to Spurs last year, or was it the year before, he had those 3 games, and everyone was like, oh man, Busuma's back, and then Conte threw him in the bench because he didn't appreciate a play like him. So that Bissouma that we were worried about is back now. So yeah, I think he's a real deal. What does that mean though? I think that's at the end of the day, let's be real. We are playing in the Premier League here, so there's levels to this, right? So
Oh no, no,
there's
no,
oh,
no,
so
no.
good.
Yeah, there's no real deal. When we say real deal, nobody's talking about Spurs winning the league. No, we're just
Yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah, yeah,
about
yeah. That's
Spurs
yeah. That's what I
consistently,
wanna. Yeah,
looking like they're gonna be consistently challenging for the top four. Because
I think so.
oh, okay,
If
top
well,
five
okay,
because of
yeah, yeah.
for next year it's top five. Because this is a thing, right? England
Hmm.
is no longer
Hmm.
a top. Sorry to cut you short there, but I'll
Hmm.
get back to you in a moment. England is
Oh,
no
no worries.
longer a top four, top five. We have a top one and the rest six. So you got the Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea here and there because Chelsea is not going to be where they are forever.
Yeah.
Brighton, Newcastle,
I
Spurs.
see.
So you have another 6 teams that are fighting for 3 positions or 4 positions.
Right.
Yeah. So these guys are not everyone. It's just Man City on the right now. That's just the truth.
Hmm.
Maybe one can break in, but right now it looks like Arsenal is the closest to breaking in. So what
Hmm.
the real deal means here is what are Spurs in this equation
Mm.
of the pretenders.
Right. Right.
Mhm. No-
Okay, that's fair.
mhm.
What? Okay, maybe. What are your thoughts, and then I'll add mine now that you've
I
contextualized
think
that.
I think that Ange is he looks good. I think he's a bit early because this is not the first or second time or third time we've seen Spurs do this. Like 2 seasons ago, they beat Man City in the first game. Remember after the Kane summer fiasco, I don't think they
Yeah.
lost the game in the first month or 6 weeks,
Hmm.
if I recall correctly. Before they lost like 2 or 3 games in a row. This time around, they've gone 6 games unbeaten. They've only beaten Man United among the top teams. E-
Right.
Every other game they've won this season was a team that was close to relegation last season.
Mm.
They didn't beat Brentford. They didn't beat Arsenal. So it's 2 wins out of 6, if I'm correct,
Hmm. Yeah.
or 3 wins. I think it's 2 wins.
Three wins.
3 wins. Sorry, 3 wins out of 6. And the other game, the two of those wins are against teams. Actually, 2 of them are against teams that are in the lower half of the table. They look better, but they're not getting wins as well because they could be 16 points. They could, and then I'd be. So I'm conceptualizing it that way. That for me,
Mm.
I want to give it another 4 games, 5 games.
Right.
Let's see
Mm.
after the 10th or 11th game of the season. But right now, he looks the real deal. But
Right.
I'm still feeling a little bit Spursy about it. It's Spurs being Spurs. I don't. I've seen. It's like a deja vu.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So that's my thoughts on it. So
Okay.
what do you think about that?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And yeah, I think I think you're spot on. I think it's still a bit early in the season to make that call whether they're the real deal. And to your point, we've seen this even with play with even with Nuno Espirito. I think that's who was the manager as well. It was looking everything was looking good. They were winning like 1-0 every game
Yeah.
then, but it was looking good. I think letting go of Kane was actually the best for both parties, and
Yes.
I think because it gives both parties an opportunity to start afresh. So that's probably the one caveat I would say that it would be interesting to see, because over the years, I remember a few years ago when under Poch, I believe, when Kane was injured, Spurs actually played with a little bit of some sort of interest in freedom. It was this interesting dilemma with Kane because obviously he's a top guy. He's the talisman. But then when they played without him, they kind of played with a little bit of freedom to express themselves. But then now they have to do that. So that's the one thing that ironically I think might be working the favor in the sense of a new set of players. Son can now take over the captainship and have an opportunity to express themselves and see where that goes. That being said, I think to your point, it's a little early, and I do believe that it's a little early, and I do believe that they're still better teams than Spurs. And then when the going goes tough, because at the end of the day, as much as Spurs are good today, and I'm not trying to take it away from them, Arsenal was very below their standards today, and like honestly, like if there was a team with a if Arsenal had a clinical striker or another team that played exactly like Arsenal today, like and had a clinical striker, we would have limped out of there 3-2 or whatever, and then it would be a first loss for Spurs. So for those reasons, I'm like, yeah, they'll be all right. But if you think of the other teams there, Liverpool, Brighton, Arsenal, I think Spurs are kind of if Manchester United get the act together, then I can see them, being a bit more above Spurs. But I think so they'll push, but I think at the end of the day, we're looking at a top 8 that might end up Europa next season, and then when they have midweek games, then usually that's when things unravel.
Yeah,
Usually, so I
that's
think they will
yeah,
actually be very good this season. They might, 6, but we will see how it goes. Because then
yeah.
when
I think
Levy comes in, he's going to get the players he wants. That's you always need
yeah,
a transfer or two with Levy. That's really when you know where you're going to be going as a Spurs manager.
yeah, that's right. I think for this season, so far they've looked good. I think they're better than last season,
Yeah.
but I think those are just me being Captain Obvious. It's very clear there. But I want to give him. I want to give him time to cook.
Mhm.
I want to give him time to cook. There's, I was left this comment. He said, "Great analysis by Ray." He was talking about your analysis of the game,
Mm.
and then of course he said, "Also hold tight. The 3 point collectors are this week." And who are the 3 point collectors of this week? Who are the correct? So we're gonna jump straight into the rest of the games with that segue. Segue straight into it. It's simply I came in here as relegation derby because I mean it's I don't think it's possible, but it was looking like it. Hell might freeze over if Man United gets relegated. But it was looking like if Burnley wins, Man United were dropping at the table, and we would have been occupying some Chelsea space. Chelsea have a special space now reserved for them in the bottom 7 of the table, and I think I'm very happy to see that happen. Because Chelsea fans have been giving me a lot of trouble recently. So Man United played. That's the only way. That's all I'll say about the game. But they won.
Mhm.
Burnley looked a good team, but flip side of it is Burnley would have taken 3 points if they were asked to play like Man United and get 3 points. They would have taken that. So
Mhm.
Man United won because Burnley for all that good play and all the high praise, they've only got 1 point. At this rate, they're getting relegated.
Yeah.
Um, but at least for their level, they're better than Chelsea, who seem to be stuck in the bottom half of the table. When I
Mhm.
Emery is still doing something good,
Mhm.
I like some of the work he's done at Villa, and they went and gave a good one to Chelsea. Uh, those were the games that I saw. I
Mhm.
couldn't. I actually did not see all of Chelsea's game. I just seen the bits of it because
Mhm.
the Arsenal game, the North London derby was going on at the same time. So, did you see any other games this weekend?
Yeah. So I watched the United Burnley game, and yeah, my analysis of that, it was essentially Burnley all nice, cute passing, but they lack the cutting edge. And I think that's they held possession, but it was sideways and not the cutting edge. And United, it's kind of almost like the opposite. The football wasn't great, but it was one moment of world class assist from Johnny Evans and then the world class finish by Bruno Fernandes. That made the difference in that game. And so ironically, it's like those two teams are juxtapositioned. Burnley doesn't have the cutting edge, but they play slightly the better football. United, the football is kind of wobbly, but when it comes to getting across the line, they had the finish. So that was that game. I didn't, and then what else? Oh, I also watched the Liverpool game a little bit. I think that was that yesterday? Or was that today? No, it was today as well. I didn't watch the Chelsea game, but I saw the score. And again, generally Chelsea this season. I mean, obviously, none of us are Chelsea fans, so we're happy where they are. But I think it's one of those things. It's gonna be a while because they bought a whole bunch of young players, and my assumption would be they have a super really long term goal. And let's just hope you still have those players around at that point because it's gonna take a while before those players gel. Yes, they have
Right.
injuries and stuff
Let,
like that
let,
too, right?
let's hope they don't fall into FFP trouble first of all, because if you're signing all those players, you have to be in the Champions League to make the income to generate revenue to pay that off in the long term. So that's the other part. They have to turn it. They don't have to turn it around quickly. Instead, if they don't turn it around quickly, it's
Yeah.
not gonna. It's not looking good. And a lot of those players are on long term contracts. So we'll see.
But
Uh,
Chelsea always has a way to skate out. That's the thing, though. Sorry to cut you off. So
no,
Chelsea
go
is
ahead.
this team because they have a million youth players, and they would always find a way, besides obviously the funding, to sell off a bunch of young players to, and then next all of a sudden Oshimane's on the. They could go get Osimhen next summer. Everyone's wondering how are they doing it, but they just sell off a bunch of young players. So they have this interesting way of just skirting around it. That over the years, I've been watching this team, and they're just able to do some nonsense. So I think, but so I'm just happy they're in the dumps right now because, like I said, next year they'll go collect a bunch of other players. They'll loan all these guys to Saudi Arabia on some dodgy deals, and then we're back. So that's the thing about Chelsea. They kind of know how to play that financial fair
Fair
play
enough.
system.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ayo says the Ashake FC getting away with murder. The man have not been in the first half of the table for 1 year. Uh, It's more than 1 year
Is
actually.
it the haircut as a Shaka FC? Is it the
Yeah.
haircut? All the head Chelsea players. Yeah, someone sent me a stat I saw today. I don't know how true it is. Like Chelsea is like they've won. I can't remember the last 6 months. They've only won 1.5 games per month or something, some crazy
Yeah,
stat
okay.
like
Let me give you another
that.
crazy stat. Since Enzo Fernandez came for that amount of money, I think he's only won one game. No, he's not won. Sorry, he
A
hasn't won
league
a
game.
game against any team that was not in the relegation area.
Wow.
The only win
Yeah.
this season is Luton, and I think he only won against teams that were relegated or close to
Jeez.
relegation. Since that's how bad Chelsea are. It's not even like they've beaten proper teams. They've only, you know, with all due respect, beating teams around their level. I mean, there's no need for due respect. That's their level.
Yeah.
It's not- that's their level because
Yeah.
it's a case of throwing money at things that you're just throwing money and hoping it will solve the problem instead of really focusing on the issue because you
Yeah.
just can't spend your way out of this one. If you already invested so much in these players, you have to wait for them to blossom.
Exactly.
You know,
And I think they have two different directions. They've hired Poch, who's a manager that usually brings players to blossom, and then you just dump in random players that you buy in. So those two, in my opinion, at least those two strategies
yeah,
are actually not
they're
working
not
with
gonna
each other.
work. Yeah, yeah,
You might
because
as well go get Mourinho if you're going to be spending, or whoever, like
yeah,
a finisher, if you're going to be spending money on
they,
players like that.
they can't
They're
get
confused.
Marino or anyone because those are finishes. You need to bring these kids up. But if you're
That's
gonna bring
true.
these kids up, then you shouldn't be spending so much money because
And
you're
buying so
spending
many.
like so many because you're spending like you're like someone who's about to win the Champions League for the next 2 3 seasons. That's the only way that money makes sense. Or you're gonna win it in another 3 or 4. I do not understand the logic behind the you know because what's his name Abramovich when Abramovich did it and challenged. They went boom, up straight up. He
Yeah,
bought ready players. He spent a lot of money, but he bought ready players. So spending all this money to buy kids doesn't make sense because the idea sometimes of buying kids is that they get better. That's why you're buying them cheap, or you can sell them if they want to leave and make your
yeah.
money back. So there's always that balance. And sometimes they even
Hmm.
get so good that you make a lot of money off selling them. So the idea of buying 1 million kids doesn't. But
Yeah,
still,
yeah. I don't
still,
understand what they're
like
doing.
you look at places where the business is done. I didn't see the City game. I know about the Rodri red card.
Okay, there you go. That's when
I
we
saw
talk
the
about that.
pictures of that. Yeah, but that's a machine that just to get all the right players. Everything's
Clockwork.
just working in. It's like clock, like exactly like clockwork. And this clock is right every time of the day, man. It's a walking clock. You know.
Yeah, yeah, essentially. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, that actually, yeah, that brings me to the City game. I watched a little bit of that game as well, and yeah, I think all of us non-City fans are interested to see what City would do in the next, or at least if there's anybody that can get points off City now that Rodri is dropped. Let's put it that way. Because I know the next game, I think whoever they're playing Crystal Palace, or something, I don't think that's going to be an issue. And then they play Arsenal. I think we're hoping that
But that's an
maybe
issue.
that maybe the Rodri thing might work in our favor. So yeah, but I'm sure most fans have seen that. But that was silly by Rodri. I mean, I think so. My thing is, Kat Rodri is obviously top top DM in the league for years, but I think he has been skirting with some of those things over the years that I think his personal thing has gotten away with. But obviously none as this is probably like the most blatant one, and yeah, that's a straight red. I mean, Casemiro did something that probably wasn't slightly not as bad if you want to put it that way, and he
Yeah.
got reds twice last season. So yeah, straight up three reds there. But again, City just keeps clocking in, and Haaland,
Yeah.
everyone, and then that Doku guy they got. All of a sudden, Grealish can't get a game. He might be playing at Chelsea next season. So clockwork there. And then, oh, the one that because I was preparing for this podcast. Did you see the Newcastle in at Sheffield? 8-0. Oh man, yeah,
Newcastle
that
are one of
was
those teams that do this because I don't know
yeah,
how to put them.
yeah,
When I've seen them sometimes this season, I don't think they're as good as they look sometimes.
right,
There's a disparity between how good they can be and then their base. What I call their
yeah,
base level is I've seen some of their performances this season where they were not incisive. They're very mechanical.
hmm
They don't create as many chances as over the spread of games because Newcastle scored 6 goals and 8 goals in 2 games.
hmm
So, 'cause look at the game against AC Milan. AC Milan, if Newcastle are that good, the gap shouldn't be that much.
hmm
AC Milan battered Newcastle.
right,
They really pummeled them. Of course, people will say it was in Rome and all of that, but I mean, they should beat you 1 or 2 nil. It's the same thing where you can say that, the same way Bayern played Man United. That's the level. The keeper saved them.
yeah,
AC Milan was so that I'm not saying they won't get better, but right now I don't know, man. Because this is the same team that went 6 and then went 8. I don't know because they're clinical when the opposition fall apart. I'll definitely
that's
say
true.
that. But are they really the good side? I don't know if they've improved this season. That's what I would say.
Yeah,
I don't know if Newcastle has improved this season. I'm not sure. And a lot
yeah,
with with a lot of sides looking better. I don't know because Newcastle have lost to Liverpool. They've lost to Brighton. Last season, some of those games would not be losses. Of course, they beat. Sorry, they scored 5 goals against Aston Villa, and then this 8-0 game. So if you look at the spread, it's not like they're really, really winning games. They also lost to City,
mhm,
though they played well in
okay,
that game. To be fair, they played better in that game. But the rest of their games, yeah, they beat Brentford. So I don't know. I don't know about Newcastle.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think they were
Newcastle, yeah. Go ahead,
they
no, go
were
ahead.
yeah, they were more resilient and they had a better defense last season. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, Newcastle. Yeah, I think it's funny enough when the Saudi the PIF or whatever the investment fund
Hmm.
when they bought Newcastle, I was very very worried about Newcastle in the sense that they have essential unlimited amount of funds. Obviously, they had rules of FFP they had to play within, but I know they were taking a bit of a long term approach to success. So almost kind of like City, but even maybe even more long term than City, where they weren't necessarily going to buy all the players that they could possibly buy. they buy one, two, but then they kind of it sounds like they want to have a long term presence in the league. So, which ironically, I think some Newcastle fans, if I were a Newcastle fan, they might be a bit frustrated because you're like, hey, we got all the unlimited money. How come we're not spending this unlimited funds, right? So that's one thing I would say with Newcastle. It's like, okay, once I start to see how they're moving, they're like, okay, there'll be a force to be worried about, but maybe you can delay that worry another 2 years. Whereas initially I thought they were going to buy everyone, and
Yeah,
then with the Saudi league also just buying off a bunch of players. So for me, that almost, again, personally, it almost took away that fear that I had of Newcastle buying all the players, where the Saudi league itself would just buy the players and bring them over to Saudi Arabia.
that's
So
right.
I think in a way it's kind of
Competing interests.
yeah, which is interestingly enough. So I think yeah, so I think they will be up there for a while, but it might take. They're not gonna go the approach that we've seen most teams go. They might almost like slow and steady, but they will always kind of be there. I think that's their goal, and then eventually you see they'll probably upgrade their manager too in 2 years or so to get to that next level. But yeah, so but as of today, I'm not necessarily afraid of Newcastle today, but they're going to be making moves, and I think to kind of be more sustainably long term up there. So
Yeah,
so yeah, so that's why you see some of those results. But they're tonality. It's like goodbye. They've plucked him 60 mil. Here we go. So yeah, it might take a while. So generally, but with Newcastle, I mean, yeah, to score 8 is an
huh.
interesting one. But yeah, to your point,
It's one of those
it's
ones you somehow like, wow,
like 8.
hey,
you
wow.
know that changed some of my commentary
Yeah,
for
I had
this before this
it was,
podcast. Like,
yeah, it was so good. The guys were coming off the bench and hitting fantasy points because I had Isaac on my fantasy. So when I
okay,
came and checked it, he was like, wait, he scored because he didn't start the game. Then I after the derby, I went out to play football.
okay,
Yeah, so I saw he didn't start the game, and I wasn't even bothered. And when I looked, he scored the goal. I went, oh, he came in and scored. Oh, like,
yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Trippier had 3 assists, and that's the other factor of that they create so many chances of Trippier, which is good. But
Mhm.
are they the new Liverpool creating a lot of
Nah.
chances off
Oh, I see.
Trent,
With
that kind of
fullbacks,
stuff,
yeah,
fullbacks and all of that.
yeah,
Yeah, so I don't know. I like what they're doing, but for all the for all the stuff people say about Man United, they and Newcastle they have the same points. So is it a case that Newcastle, because they scored 8 goals and 6 goals in 2 games, and then
hmm
scored a goal in 1 game and lost the rest?
mm.
Is that or lost 2 of the rest? Is that why they're everyone's not looking at them because everyone's going Man United are bad, yeah, but I don't know about Newcastle. I did better.
Yeah, I think it's more about. I mean, just to jump in there a little. I think
Hmm.
it's more about trajectory is what people are seeing. So I mean, I don't think anyone is seeing Newcastle today and is like, oh man, this team is. Obviously, when you play Newcastle, you have to. I think the top teams, if they bring their A game or even the say A game when they play Newcastle, most likely they will get the W if they play what they're supposed to do. Whereas, but I think it's more of a trajectory with Newcastle because now it's like okay, they're a team that whenever you play them, you have to be serious. Whether you're home or away, and yeah, when you play St James Park, yeah, those fans there, so that's a whole nother game. But so I think it's more the trajectory that Newcastle is going. Again, it's I think like I said earlier, it's probably a bit slower than most Newcastle fans would like
Would have
because
expected, yeah.
they're not buying too many players. Versus Manchester United, where you guys, they have all the big names and well, some not every player is big name, but big names and things, and then the football, you're still trying to figure out okay,
What's happening up
what's
there?
the football that United
Yeah.
is playing, and then you have all these big stars. So I think it's more that I would say, but and I say if teams playing, to be honest, today, if you're playing United or Newcastle today you probably take your chances against United, like the last 2 weeks or whatever you want to call it. Because not saying so I think that's probably what people are saying, but I don't think anyone that knows football well is saying Newcastle is already better than United, and that's the end. I think it's just more of a trajectory thing.
Oh,
You can
well,
kind of see where they're going. Yeah,
football is always about the now. The future is
yeah,
never
that's
guaranteed.
true.
You
That's
know,
true. That's true.
yeah,
That's a good point. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
The coach will always tell you we're working on something, but they don't get fired because they're not working on something. They get
That's
fired
true.
because they can't see what they're doing. So it's always about now. Fans sometimes fans are patient.
Yeah,
I think the context always helps, but some
yeah.
fans are patient because they know, this is not their level. But I think
Hmm.
Newcastle fans they've gone to the Champions League, so will the fans now compared to where they were before, the fans will be
Hmm.
happy.
Yeah.
But would they now be happy to be bouncing around the Europa League next season and for the next few seasons? The fans have tasted blood.
Yeah.
They're not about to become vegans now. That's not.
Like that.
So I don't
Uh,
know. Especially that's the reason why they allowed the Saudi whole thing to happen because they
yeah.
expect a lot. Instead, they wouldn't care. Though of course, it's the context that their club was terrible on
I
that
think they're
aspect.
gonna go big in the transfer market. I think they, depending how they go in, because I think they, again, they're a bit more. They're almost like the opposite of Chelsea, where they're very methodical. So I think, depending how they do in in the Champions League, if they fall out early, then they might wait till summer to get a sign in. But if they get to the knockout, which is gonna be, I think they're in group of death if I remember. But if they get to the knockout, then they might go big in the January. But I can see sorry, Newcastle in the summer next season going for going for that big one or two players that
So that
that the
that
fans will want.
that
You know.
happens to you as well. You started saying Saudi when you.
I cut myself. Oh, hey, I cut myself, man. That's
I
all.
mean, their fans cannot get offended because they
Hey,
usually wear turbans to the stadium.
yeah,
So
exactly.
they,
So
they've embraced the whole Saudi thing. Yeah,
that's funny.
yeah,
Um, yeah. What other games? I'm trying to
yeah.
remember. Oh,
That was
Brighton, they bounced back. Yeah,
yeah, that
Brighton's
was
doing
good.
Brighton.
Mitoma came on the bench and did some wonders. That's very
Yeah, yeah,
good. And then
yeah.
finally, Kane scored a hat trick again. Yeah, Kane scored a hat
Oh
trick.
yeah, Buchum. I mean, I don't watch Bundesliga much, but man, I saw that game and they could have scored like 12, 13 goals in that game.
It's
I
that's another. You know, Pip. Okay, people say oh, Bundesliga is famous league, but just I was about to say that's what Pep is. That's another team that Pep is emulating. They're trying to transform this league into the Bundesliga, but
mean,
uh, Bayern is clockwork. You know,
yeah,
Bayern is clockwork too. They just do it in this league. I don't know how. Sometimes you don't even believe it's going to happen. And then Ken is a goal machine.
yeah,
He also plays football like a machine, like clockwork to put a
yep.
clock in, you know. So there's too many clocks in this situation, and they're all.
You know, Musiala's good, man. That guy is phenomenal. Oh my goodness. Because I watched him against United on the week because I don't think he played against Butcham, but against United, this kid, oh, he is a certified baller, like like straight up. Oh my
Yeah, I
goodness.
I know he's
Oh,
so
oh,
young and all of that,
oh,
but he's the real deal. I can say that. Yeah,
absolutely. Oh
only
man,
injury stopped that boy from having a great career. That's
absolutely.
a
Yeah, man.
gem of a player.
That guy's a baller, straight up.
Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah. So and
yeah.
then they got another striker too. I can't remember his name. He's come on a few times
Tell,
as a
tell,
tell.
tell.
Yes, and
Yeah,
he bangs every time. Very sharp shooter. Obviously,
yeah.
it helps. He comes on a team like Bayern to kind of get his confidence up. But when he's there, he bangs. That's his job, is to bang, whether
That's
it's
right.
4-0 or 1-0 up. Yeah. So yeah,
That's good.
Bayern's another
Yeah.
team.
Phew.
Yeah,
We gotta play them again.
yeah. When is that? When is that? December?
uh, I think at
Is
the end
everyone
of November.
is everyone gonna be back? Yeah,
It's
who's
gonna be
gonna be back
November.
for you? You guys have like what's your strategy, United? What's going on?
Uh,
I know it's not a
our
United
strategy is
podcast, but
our strategy is we go to the mountain and we pray because we need fasting and prayer right now, brother. Like,
yeah,
come on, are you serious? The starting fullback gets injured on the left side. The starting fullback gets injured on the right side. The replacement fullback gets injured now. the starting right centre back gets injured, the starting left centre back gets injured. Then the possible sub gets injured. So now you now end up having Johnny Evans. Like, so when we've gotten to that
Throwback.
stage now, you start praying. You
Prayer
start
and
praying
fasting.
because you don't know what you're supposed to do anymore. It's really
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
It's really bad. The only place we seem, even though I know we lost Mano, but comparatively and to the defense is the midfield. We've lost only two. The with this, then of course there's Sancho gone. There's Anthony gone. Don't
Mm.
want to talk about those. Those are
Yeah,
just
well, yeah,
sideshow, you know.
yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough because Anthony is important to the way the team plays. It took
Mm.
him leaving for people to understand his value. Because
Mm-hmm.
now the team now keeps trying different formations. People are
Mm-hmm.
going Pelestri, but now Pelestri needs games. I understand that. Um, so, because it's very hard for me to say I know what Ten Hag is doing right now, and I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but he doesn't really
Mm.
have his team. It's tough. So it's uh, I don't want to do pick apart players. I don't want to pick on players.
Yeah, yeah.
The,
That's
the
fair.
the team is not looking good. So if the team is not looking good, you don't just start saying it's because of that player. Nah, it's so many factors, so many things. Any coach will struggle if you have to keep chopping and changing every week.
Yeah.
Next week you don't know if Regular will play. You don't know if Martinez will play. Mount might be getting back.
Oh,
Amrabat
yeah.
might come into the team. Varane is back. Hooray! So it's that situation, and then Hoyland is still getting back into the game. But in general, that's the only positive I can find. It's just
At
the
least,
players will come back. That's
at
that's
least,
all I
at
can.
least, at least there's no Onana memes this weekend.
The,
Because the last month, man, this guy was just supplying us meme after meme every game. It was too much. Even I was like, okay, this brother,
Well, I
someone
started
needs to
laughing
pray for
at
this
it,
guy.
man. I started laughing at it, man. Like, 'cause, I mean, some of them were really funny. I started laughing, and
Oh,
if they send
funny.
it to me, I'll frown, then I'll laugh, then I'll frown. It's
Yeah,
one of those things. Man, it's been tough. That's all I say about Manchester United. It's been tough. As a fan, it's been tough.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
So let's go to kudos and donkeys of the week.
Okay.
So you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. So honestly, for the week, it was interesting that ooh, my initial donkey of the week was I was going to give it to Chelsea just for continuing the trajectory of what's been happening the last 3 weeks. But honestly, I'm going to give it to Sheffield United. I don't care. It's the Premier League. You cannot lose at home 8-0. I know Newcastle gets streaky when they're scoring, but I'm sorry. You're all professionals playing the Premier League. You can't be allowing a team, and this is coming from an Arsenal fan with the Man U back then. Yes, I was annoyed then, but I don't even think that was at home.
No, that
Battered
was the
eight
way.
nothing at home. Exactly. Again, no, yeah, you can't be battered 8-0 at home. Sorry, donkey of the
Yeah.
day, Sheffield United. I know the bar of expectations is generally lower, but at the very least, don't get beat 8-0 at home.
No,
So
the
yeah,
expectations were lower, but the manager's job was on the line. There were rumors that Chris, the former manager, Chris, I forgot his last name. Gee. Yeah, Chris,
uh,
he's waiting in line. The
yeah,
rumors
yeah. Okay,
about that
so
before
maybe
the
they sold the game, maybe because the
maybe the
players.
players
I
don't
don't know.
want him. I don't know, but his job
Man,
he might not be there on Monday. That's how bad
yeah.
it is over there. Then you got any kudos?
Oh, yeah. Honestly, kudos. I think I kind of hinted earlier. I think for the week, I'll have to give it to Newcastle. I know. And the reason initially, again, I was probably if Arsenal had won this week, I might have been tempted to give it to them for our return to Champions League. Very triumphant return and all that. But I would say Newcastle again for the similar reasons. They're back in the Champions League, and yes, they got battered, but hey, no one expected them to be there, so to speak. But they walked out of Milan with 1 point. and they came here and they beat Sheffield United 8-0 at home. So for that reason, for this week, I would give the kudos of the week to Newcastle.
Okay. My donkey of the week is Rodri. Like I don't know how I don't know how you can do that. I don't know how you can do that. What were you thinking? It's the same thing like if you had butted the guy, that kind of stuff they do or pushed him. But it really looked bad, especially since he was mad. There wasn't even a case of like you said earlier, you can contextualize it for um Casemiro because it turned out he wasn't really even mad with the guy. He was just
Mm.
he was trying to calm things down. But this guy was really incensed, and you grab the guy by the throat. The ref is right there. That was bound to happen. Uh, they're gonna miss him. I think he's the best player in the position, and for them especially, Calvin Phillips is not it. He's not at that level. He's not even close to it. But Pep being Pep,
Yep.
he might have been thinking about this situation in the past, so he might be trying. There might be something coming up. My kudos of the week goes to Johnny Evans, back from the dead. Ooh, Johnny Evans scored a goal that was, you know, chalked off, but that was a
Oh
good
yeah, yeah.
goal. He got a Franz Beckenbauer assist or Pelo assist, so you could, you get the gist. Or Zebi assist, Zabi Alonso assist, and then of course Bruno helped him finish it like Van Basten. That was, ooh.
Oof, a goal. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but not just about that. Like I said, he almost got a goal. He created a goal and went 100% on the other side. He stopped, I think, two goals. I'm sure of one, but I think he blocked the other one. That he blocked the guy from shooting the ball when he got fouled.
Mm.
Onana smothered that ball. He stopped that guy from getting a clear shot, and there was an interception, a perfect interception he had in that game. He also got fouled there. So that's what Manchester United needed at the moment. From as a Manchester United fan, I think he had a. I think honorable mentions should go to Medri. Medri had a great game, but
Mm.
kudos of the week is definitely Johnny Evans. Um, Son did very well, two good goals in a derby. So I give him second for this week, but I'll be biased and say it was Johnny Evans' weekend.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he had a great game. That
Yeah.
assist, man. Oh boy. Oof, yeah, I jumped out of my seat for that one, and I'm obviously not a Man U fan, but that was an assist and the finish too. Yeah. So yeah, that's fair.
All right, man. I think
Mm.
that's it for this week. But before we go, I'm going to say this again. Jump on and subscribe us. Follow us on YouTube. You can get all our videos. You can get highlights from Oga Kwame during the, you know, highlights of our shows. And you can get videos and snips from Oga Kwame during the week. Um, you're going to get content, tactical content from Ayo. They're all on our YouTube page at Footy Fantasy. Our Twitter page is Footy 80 Fantasy. Instagram is Footy Fantasy. But please, when you go on those pages, please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you, Ray, for coming on. It's very good analysis.
Thank
I
you.
wouldn't say I wish you well, but I wish you personally well, if you know what to say. Have a good week, man.
All right, no, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure, man. Take it easy.
You too, bro.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.